We did not end off the story in a very good place last time. Sofia defied her fate, and now she's staying with us. Forever. Now it's time to see Lilika's story. And how could this possibly end? The rain never seems to cease at this time of year. It pours from the sky in its unending grief, as if longing for something unseen. Thunder roared in the distance, enough so to make the young woman flinch, but not enough to make her waver. The woman sat beside a man with an imposing brow and a large beard. The man wheezed and coughed, but kept hold of the newspaper in his hands. The front page read the following: The Great Plague of London, 7,000 deceased. The man frowned at the words. How utterly preposterous! What on earth are the physicians doing? The lady next to him coughed into her handkerchief. When she pulled it away from her mouth, it was stained red with blood. I am sure they are trying their best, my dear. Their best is going to kill everyone. Look at this rubbish. Amelie is still well and finally of age to marry. We will arrange for a suitor before she becomes sick. If we send her out there, then she will certainly grow sick. She should stay here, locked in her room until it is safe to leave. No man will want a woman who has spent her only good years locked in her bedroom. But she will be safe. The lady held her cheek, which quickly reddened after the impact. The lord glared at her behind his bushy eyebrows. Wow, what a dick! You would do well to remember who she belongs to. Who you belong to. Wow! What an asshole! The lady blinked, trying desperately to stop her eyes from welling up. Lilika, please come here. Oh. Her voice carried through the otherwise empty home. Time seemed to pause for a few moments before a woman with blonde hair, cascading behind her, entered the room. She wore the dress of a maidservant, and a neutral expression that wavered just so after seeing the mark left by the lord's hand. She stepped forward, crossing the tiled floor with slow steps that seemed to match the pace of the thunder that roared outside. The lady nodded to the maid. The maid nodded back to the lady. The moon reflected from the metal object in the maid's hand as she swung it down into the lord's throat. He let out a gargled scream. Blood spluttered out from his mouth, and he tried to speak. Tried to yell but it was too late. He fell forward onto the floor, and the tiles darkened into a crimson red. He squirmed and crawled, searching for something that no one would ever know, before he fell still only a few minutes later. The lady stared at the scene. Her heart raced, and a laugh escaped her lips. Finally. You'll never hurt Amelie. I hope you rot in hell. The maid wiped the knife against the small white hand towel. The stains would never be fully removed. My lady, I will deal with the body. I will help you. He is too much for you to carry alone. But my lady, you are sick, and I will get no better sitting here. The two grabbed him by an arm each and dragged him towards the stairwell, leaving a trail of blood in their wake. No other words passed from their lips as they executed their task. They reached the end of the hall and began the ascent to the first floor. The lord's head hit against each step with a soft thunk. Thunk, thunk, thunk. The house was silent in all other regards. Two doors sat next to each other. Both were shut tight. As the two women reached the top of the stairwell, the maid pushed open the door to the master bedroom and entered. The room was spacious and clean, with fresh bedding left by the maid just the same morning. On the wall above the bed, a newly painted family picture. The two struggled and finally lifted the man into the bed. His face was stuck in a terrified expression, and his clothes were ruined. You will protect Amelie, right? I'll do anything you desire. Then let us begin. Lightning struck somewhere in the distance, lighting up the otherwise darkened room and showing many things that should have been left unseen. The maid removed her shoes and crawled into the sheets beside the corpse. The lady dipped her fingers into the lord's wound and drew a line of blood around the bed. What? She spoke softly to no one in particular, chanting words that should never be chanted. When she was done, she stepped over the threshold and approached the maid. Never let anyone protect her. I said never let anyone hurt her. Protect her no matter what. I will, my lady. Thank you, Lilika. You'll never truly understand how much your actions mean to me. The lady leaned forward and left a soft kiss against the maid's lips. It was brief and gentle, and something the two had wished to share for longer than either would admit. As the lady pulled away, the maid drew her knife, still smudged with blood, and brought it to her veil. Whoa. Goodbye, Lilika. Goodbye, my lady. The maid bled out slowly, painfully slowly. The lady gasped for air and clawed at her neck. Whoa? Everything in the manor became still. Everything apart from a young lady named Amelie, who sat in her bed upright, feeling a deep dread in the pit of her stomach, and another young lady named Lilika, who stood over two corpses lying beside each other in bed. The young lady named Lilika stared at the maid in the bed, her own blood seeping through the bed. And yet here she stood. She looked at herself in the mirror and saw a different person entirely. She was no longer the maid. She was Lilika. Her voice was softer, her hair longer. It worked. When she turned back towards the bed, Lilika froze. Both of the bodies were gone, and in their places, two skeletons. How long has it been? She walked towards the door and found it locked. Digging through the tattered clothes of the long-dead maid, she retrieved the key and opened it. The door beside the master bedroom sat ajar, just enough for Lilika to peer in. Amelie sat on the end of her bed, staring at herself in a small handheld mirror while brushing her hair. She hummed a quiet tune, but froze as her eyes met Lilika's. Who are you? I am Lilika. Lilika? But... Your mother told me that you had a maid named Lilika. What a coincidence. What are you doing here? How long has your mother been gone? My mother. I saw her. She frowned and clutched her head as if she couldn't quite remember. I saw her just this morning. I see. Your parents have left to be cured of the plague. They have asked me to stay here with you until they can return. Really? A cure truly exists? That's right. So until then, how about we be friends? Amelie's face lit up, and their eternal friendship began. Oh, so that's some kind of time magic madness at play here. How many years had passed since that day? Sacrificing the blood of, gosh. The blood of Amelie's parents. And the maid, most likely. To give Lilika some kind of reborn, eternal spiritual life? Neither could tell. Time seemed to stand still within that manor. Out in a field in the middle of nowhere. That's the way Lilika wished it to stay. Lilika, a letter has arrived. What? Her blood ran cold as Amelie stared at the envelope in her hands. When was the last time we had a letter? How exciting. Perhaps it's mother writing that she will return soon. Perhaps so. Oh. Oh? It seems to be addressed to someone else entirely. Perhaps it was brought here by mistake. Then we had best send it back. Give it to me and I will have it returned. A peek wouldn't hurt, don't you think? Lilika watched as the first crack formed into her fragile world. I will dispose of it immediately. Give it to me. It was too late. The letter inside had already been let loose, and Amelie's eyes had already taken in the words left for someone else. Sofia. Lilika, I think I will write back. I will let her know that I received the letter by mistake. That isn't needed. Please? Just one letter. Thank you, Lilika. It always starts with one. How many letters had arrived at their door since then? How many times had Amelie spoken excitedly about Sofia to her? Sofia. Sofia, Sofia, Sofia. It's always Sofia. Sofia is the crack in this fragile reality. Sofia. I have to get rid of Sofia. Lilika? Lilika's eyes opened with a jolt. I'm sorry, I'm a little tired. What did you say? Sofia says she's coming to visit. Crack. Another crack formed from the last. It sprawled across reality, threatening to shatter at any moment. Amelie, I don't think that's a good idea. The plague. He says that it's safe enough to travel now in the letter. Perhaps mother and father will return soon, too. Perhaps it was entirely coincidental that, in the time Amelie was originally alive, there was the great London plague of London. And now, in this current present time, Sofia is living through the current pandemic. Gosh. It's wild. Lilika forced a smile. But we don't need anyone else here. We have each other. Of course, you're my dear friend, Lilika, but Sofia and I have been writing to each other for... Shook her head as if chasing off the beginnings of a headache. Any perception of time seems to throw her for a loop. For a long time, anyway. I'm excited to finally meet her. Won't you be excited with me, too? We could all be friends. Right, friends. I'm sure we'll all be the best of friends. For an amount of time that neither Lilika nor Amelie could truly comprehend, the house was suddenly buzzing with life. Amelie's footsteps were light, and her days were filled with excitement as she waited the arrival of Sofia. And finally, to Lilika's dismay, the day came. The pendulum clock on the wall swung back and forth, ticking down the time. Lilika stared at it, wishing that it would slow down even further. 10 minutes, then 20, then an hour passed. The two stood by the door waiting for a knock. She seems to be late. Perhaps she's not coming after all, Amelie. There's no need to make such a sullen face. Mayhaps this is for the best. She wrote the letter. She wrote that she would be here. So I shall wait. With her face hidden from Amelie, Lilika scowled. Do you truly believe it's safe to have visitors during the outbreak? Lilika, I believe we have been isolated long enough. And Sofia has written that it is safe. I trust her word. She would not endanger us. And if your pen pal turns out to be a robber in disguise, what then? Amelie smiled, to Lilika's dismay. She's a way with words that only a woman could have. A lady robber, then. Nonsense. By the way, Lilika, have you seen my letters? I can't say that I have. A knock sounded at the door, instantly halting their conversation. I'm blanking on the name that was being scribbled out and written in on the letters at the end of Sofia's true ending, perhaps. But I wonder if that's Amelie's mother. Amelie rose from place and took a steady step forward before Lilika raised a hand to stop her. Allow me to see if she should truly be allowed entry. The door groaned as it slowly swung open and revealed the young woman who knocked at the door. She was drenched from head to toe. Lilika stared at her. Light hair and eyes. She looked almost like a kitten. Instantly, Lilika's dislike for the woman grew. Lilika stepped to the side just in time for Sofia to bounce through the door and wrap her arms around Amelie. Her blood boiled. She watched as the clothes she had carefully handmade became drenched by someone unworthy, someone that didn't deserve to even look at Amelie. Amelie! Sofia! Amelie's arms wrapped around Sofia in return. Lilika turned away. My, you're completely drenched. Did you forget your umbrella, perchance? Or perhaps her umbrella got carried away by the wind. With a cool anger written over her features, Lilika shut the door. I didn't even think to bring an umbrella. The forecast said sunny all day. My fault for believing it, I guess. I can't believe you're truly here. Me either. About time, right? Just as pretty as I knew you'd be. Oh. And you too. But what are you wearing? Seeing your house, I feel like I should have dressed up a little more. No, perhaps it is I that is overdressed. Lilika stood to the side, her arms crossed lightly over her chest. Her long hair reached down nearly to the wooden floor. Pardon my manners, my dear friend Lilika is here too. I believe I wrote about her in the past. Remember, I have kept all your letters safe, don't worry. As you should. Amelie side-eyed Lilika upon hearing her tone, but Lilika simply looked away. That's an interesting dynamic. From Sofia's perspective, Amelie is saying these lines. And she can't actually see Lilika until Lilika makes her presence known to her in the bath. Sorry, but is there any chance you have a towel? Of course, my apologies. I would usually have someone here to attend to us, but everyone's been sent home. Only the three of us remain. Let me fetch you a towel. As Amelie disappeared down the hallway, leaving Lilika alone with Sofia. This really is a manor. When she told me about her house, I almost didn't believe it. As no one told you, it is rude to poke around someone else's house. Sofia walked straight past Lilika without even a notion of responding. Hello? You can't see me. Sofia ran her finger along the edge of the red tabletop before reaching to pick up a book that rested there. Don't let her touch it. Don't let her touch anything. Oh gosh, she'll break it all. She'll undo everything. She wants to hurt Amelie. She can't find out the truth. The window shook loudly in the wind. With a flick of her small wrist, Lilika allowed the door to fly open, causing Sofia to whip around in surprise. It's so windy. Lilika locked in on the object that Sofia had been reaching for. She rushed forward and took hold of it, then quickly hid it behind a cabinet as Sofia reached out to close the door. Whew. Amelie? Sofia spun around, but looked straight through Lilika. Oh, Sofia. Oh, Amelie. Please, use this. Thanks. I'll bring an umbrella next time, I promise. Lilika watched as Sofia dried herself with a towel. Our towel. It's not for her. There can't be a next time. Then if you're now dried off, would you care for a tour of the house before afternoon tea? That sounds great. On the right is the pantry, and down the hall is the boiler room. But you shouldn't have any need for those spaces. Sofia and Amelie walked side by side, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. Shoulders almost touched. Shameful. Lilika stared at the place where they almost connected, seething with a quiet rage. These are all the guest bedrooms. I prepared this one for your use. If you find anything not to your standards, you can let myself or Lilika know. Amelie, I have a feeling your standards are much higher than mine. I've never even been in a house that looks like this. No? Is your home not similar? Well, it's a lot smaller. There's no shame in that. You own your own property, yes? Yeah, I recently bought it. With your husband? What? No, of course not. I'm not married. Shut up. Your father allowed you to buy property on your own. Amelie, you speak just like how you write. I'm so surprised. Your voice disgusts me. And you speak quite casually. People usually say that about me. Being here, around you, makes me want to be more formal. What need is there of formality between friends? That's true, too. Your words are poisoning Amelie. This is the morning room, and next door the dining room. We'll be having afternoon tea in the sitting room here. So many rooms. Upstairs is my bedroom and the master bedroom. I must ask that you don't enter the master bedroom, as it belongs to my parents who are currently away. Of course, I won't go poking around anyway. Lies. You're lying. All this walking has made me parched. Shall we take afternoon tea now? Sure, that sounds good. Won't you have a seat while Lilika and I prepare our food? Oh, I can come help. Nonsense, you're my guest. It would be remiss of me to allow you to lift a finger. If you insist, but I'm happy to help, any time. Thank you. I'll be back soon. Please, rest. Amelie, defying your fate? Yes? It's nothing. Take your time. Or maybe not. She didn't ask the question. Sofia slipped through the doorway and disappeared. Amelie smiled widely, while Lilika just stared ahead blankly. Isn't this lovely, Lilika? To have a new face in the house, it feels like forever. Yes, how lovely. I'm glad you are having fun at the very least. Are you not? Oh, sever her fate. I'm always having fun when we're together, Amelie. Ah, I see. Are you jealous? Worry not, my dear friend. Of course our friendship means just as much to me. I value you greatly. Just as much. Indeed. Come along, Lilika. Let us prepare tea. Did you finish the baking yesterday? The pastries are ready for serving. Excellent. I'll just fetch the tea then. Allow me. A lady of your standing shouldn't be doing such a menial task, should she? Don't be absurd. And Sofia herself seems to be fine in the kitchen. Did you hear how she jumped to help? I should follow in her footsteps. What would your parents think of that? I appreciate the sentiment, but they took with them all of the staff. I have little choice but to prepare my own tea. I see. Then shall I attend to our guest? I wouldn't want her to become lonely. Would you? I'll only be a few moments. Of course, anything for you, Amelie. It'll be a good chance for you to become friends, too. It'll be a good chance for you to become friends, too. I'm sure it will be. Lilika's smile at the moment seemed to hide behind it an intent much deeper than Amelie realized. Time to go torment our friend. The walls had eyes. The walls had eyes. Literally, eyes that tracked Lilika's every move. Well, that's concerning. They followed her as she made careful, deliberate steps toward the sitting room. They stared, their eyes bulging, judging. They had no mouths in which to scream, but Lilika could still hear their words. We all sacrificed ourselves for you. Is this what happened to all the staff? Hope, our only hope. Amelie, protect Amelie. Prove your worth. Prove your love. Amelie, Amelie, Amelie. Under her feet, shattered glass pierced through her shoes, cutting her feet. She could feel the blood ooze out, pooling. It was warm, comforting. She looked up to find where the glass had come from. Then she noticed the cracks once again. Along every wall, every floorboard, even through the air. The world was fragmented. It was already broken. Not beyond repair. It's not. My lady, I will fix this still. My lady, not Amelie, but... You can rest. Please, rest. I will take care of everything. Anything and everything. For you. She blinked. The world reverted to the way it should. The glass that lined the floor, gone. The cracks in reality seemed to still be there, though. The eyes that followed from the walls, gone. The cracks that had begun to wrap themselves around Lilika's ankles had disappeared, too. She stood in front of the sitting room's door, which sat slightly ajar. Inside, Lilika could see Sofia staring at the large window. Her back stayed turned as Lilika entered the room. Of course, it wouldn't have been possible for Sofia to turn and look at her, but Lilika still found herself taking careful, quiet steps. The window shook past the dark, thick curtains. You who would attempt to defy your fate. Why don't we see how long this little game lasts? Why don't we test whose love is strongest? I swear my love is unwavering. My infatuation, my yearning, my desire. I never even wished to match it. Lilika put out a chair roughly, dragging the legs across the floor. Ah! Yet you dare to challenge me. You dare to test my love. Amelie, was that you? Amelie? Sofia took careful steps toward the chair, resting her hand against it. Or... Lilika. This is defying her fate. Ha ha ha. You're nothing. Sofia sat down in the chair that was offered to her, while Lilika circled around, as if a cat after its prey. But her steps paused as she heard something strange. Footsteps from above. The master bedroom. In front of her very eyes, Lilika watched the scene unfold. A scene that made her blood run cold and her body freeze in place. My lady. The lady of the house stood beside Lilika. Before, the two had stood eye to eye. Now the lady stood taller than Lilika by at least a head. My lady, what are you doing here? The lady removed her shoes and stepped onto the table. Did you come to punish me? Are you angry? I promise I'll remove the plague that has entered our home. I swear it, upon my undying love. The lady did not respond. Instead, she reached up and took hold of the noose. The rope wrapped around her neck, exactly where the necklace that the maid had gifted the lady should have rested. Join me. Her eyes locked onto Sophia's. Her hand was outstretched, waiting to be taken. Why won't you look at me, my lady? Are you truly so angry? Angry enough to despise me? For a moment, as Sophia's outstretched hand came closer and closer, the lady's eyes slowly turned towards Lilika. They carried with it a message that only Lilika could decipher. Lilika's body shook. It trembled and trembled until she could bear it no more. She ran from the room as fast as her legs could carry her. The hallway still had eyes. They weren't fast enough to follow Lilika. The floorboards, as if made of quicksand, threatened to suck her up and bury her deep within the house. Her feet felt heavy and leaden. Every step was as painful as that brief glance. She raced through the hall, and up a flight of stairs, past the stained glass window which left a myriad of colors over the carpeted steps, and past the doors that led to the master bedroom in Amelie's room. Closer, closer, until she arrived at a bookcase. She pushed it to the side and entered the hidden room. Oh, this is the room that, yeah, this is the room that Lilika possessing Amelie was in when Sofia found her. The room behind the bookcase was small, and not a single window faced outwards, thus the room was near pitch black. Each wall was plastered with handwritten letters clearly for Lilika alone. Her eyes, frantic, finally started to calm as she took in the words. Her words left to her, for her, only for her. Lilika's eyes settled on a particular letter. Oh, alright. Look left. Dear Amelie, dear Lilika. How wonderful to hear that you are doing well. I've been very busy this week. Most of it is boring, so I won't bog you down with the details. But you know what happened just yesterday? Of course you don't, you weren't there. I was walking home when I found an abandoned kitten. Someone left it in a box on the side of the road. How could anybody do that? Anyway, I took her home. I named her Amy. Lily, after you. It's a little embarrassing writing it out like that. I hope you don't mind. Yours, Sofia? Marion. This is what happened to Amelie's letters. That's my personal theory, that Marion is the name of the lady of the house, who Lilika was in love with. Look right. Dear Amelie, Lilika. I spent the past week studying. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy it, but everyone needs a break, you know? My desk gave a little cactus in a pot. To be honest, a cactus wasn't my first choice, but I've killed every other plant I have ever owned. Anyway, it bloomed. There's one beautiful flower coming out of it. I couldn't be happier. That makes studying easier. I think your environment makes a big difference. But you, do you have any plans? Looking forward to hearing about it next time. Yours, Sofia, Marion. Today was tough. I tried my hardest, but I still failed. Don't you think life is unfair sometimes? Wish trying hard enough was all it took to succeed. Sorry, I'm whinging, aren't I? Came out of my interview and it was raining. I thought, just my luck, but something interesting happened. A rainbow in the distance peeked out from behind the grey clouds. It reminded me of you. And I felt a little better. I hope we can meet soon. Yours, Sofia, Marion. She ripped the letter from the wall and clutched it to her chest, collapsing to her knees. She couldn't hate me. She couldn't. She adores me like I adored her. She entrusted her everything to me. Everything. Her everything. Amelie. The letter dropped from her fingers that were neither cold nor warm. You want me to get rid of that disease, don't you? You won't accept me until I protect Amelie. Is that right, my lady? I'd do anything. Anything you asked. If that's all I have to do, then I will do it. I'll keep Amelie safe. Forever. Lilika stood from the ground and dusted off her skirt. Her face that had previously contorted in distress had finally calmed, and a smile gently crept onto her face. I love you, my lady, and for you I will love Amelie too. I should like the sconces too. Where'd I put those matches? Right here. Ah! Surprised Lilika. You gave me a fright, Lilika. Where have you been? Preparing the guest room for your dear friend, of course. Kind. Sophia's just preparing for a bath at the present. Going to retrieve a towel for her from the linen closet. Amelie, I think it is best you send her home post-haste. What? Why would I do that? For all you know, she brings with her the plague. Sophia says it's now safe to travel. It should be perfectly fine, don't you think? And what if she lies? She wouldn't do that. Sophia is a kind and good-natured person. She would not bring any danger to us. Did you know that Sofia attends a local university? And she lives by herself with no husband. She says that if I wanted, I could also study. 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 She wants to leave? Leave the house? No, she can't leave. She can't go anywhere. She belongs here. She was entrusted to me. The lady of the house should not study, Amelie. You must stay inside the house and await your parents. But I'm sure Mother would want the best for me. Perhaps while I wait her, I could go inspect Sophia's school. Amelie, you must stay inside and await your parents' return. But don't you trust me? Have you ever tried to lead you astray? No, Lilika. I was just thinking that perhaps it is truly beginning to be safe. Look, I brought today's newspaper. Do you see the title? The plague runs rampant. But any notion of leaving or studying away for now, yes? As soon as it is truly safe to do so, then we shall. You'll be reunited with your family. For now it is just you and me. Thanks, Lilika. I'm glad you're here. As am I. Ah, the towel. Let me go retrieve it. Go ahead. Alone, Lilika stared at the bathroom door, which was shut tight, so it's quite clear that there's a fair bit of deception in play to keep Lilika here, to keep Amelie here, rather. There's a fair bit of deception and intentionally muddying Amelie's perception of time, her memories of sorts. All in the name of keeping her here, keeping her afraid of the outside world, and keeping her here. Behind it, she could hear the water running. She could picture Sophia's body slowly shedding its layers of clothes before she stepped into the hot water. That image was enough to force her hand. The running water sloshed into the steel-lined wooden tub. State-of-the-art system. No one else in the country owned anything like it. But how many years ago was that? How long had it been? Sophia leaned over the sink, her bone-white knuckles grasping either side of it. Her back was turned to Lilika. If she wanted, she could stab her in the back and be over with it. No. I need to keep Amelie's trust. She needs to leave, or go somewhere she'll never be found. Or do it herself. Sophia lifted her face to the mirror, then froze. Her eyes bore into it, as if she was seeing something she shouldn't. Lilika stared back, unmoving. Leave. Leave already. Who? One step at a time, maintaining eye contact through the mirror, Lilika crept closer. Closer and closer until the two were nearly touching. Why do you want to take Amelie away? Can't you see that she loves me? Me, not you. Your words are poisoning this household. If you don't leave, I'll kill you. I'll have no choice. I'll just kill you. Who are you? Sophia whipped around, but her eyes didn't focus on any spot in particular. To her, Lilika was gone. Lilika walked towards the open cabinet and pulled something out. Oh boy. Sever her fate, sever her fate. The metal of the razor glinted. Lilika raised it up as she moved to stand over the bath. With ease, the metal cut into her arm. Drops of blood fell into the water, leaving tiny splashes where they connected. Blood still runs in my veins after all. Sophia rushed past Lilika, desperate to turn off the overflowing water before she froze once again. It's just Lilika's direct action. The water was deep, dark red. Her slender fingers dipped into the liquid as if she were entranced. One layer at a time, she stripped bare, her expression hollow and lifeless. Lilika watched as her naked body stepped into the crimson water. Why not just end it here? You're scared, aren't you? Just sink down. Accept your fate. Accept it. A knock came from the door. Lilika's widened eyes went from the door to the young woman in the bath, then back again. Excuse me, I'm coming in. Lilika ducked behind the folding screen just in time to hear the door open. Sophia? I knocked, but I didn't hear a reply. I brought you a towel. Ah! Huh? She didn't wait any longer. As Amelie stepped into the room to set down the towel, Lilika quietly dashed out into the hall. Before Lilika had a chance to even catch her breath, the bathroom door opened once again, and Amelie stepped out with flushed cheeks. Did you tell her that she must depart? No, Is something the matter? Are you feeling unwell? Your face is bright red. Sofia will stay until she decides to leave. No, she must leave now. Tonight. No longer. As you wish. I'm sorry, Lilika, but I believe it is only fair after she has traveled so far, and she is my friend. That woman, siren. Look what she does to our Amelie. We'll finish preparing the guest room. Let me come help. Sofia, when you're done in there, you can come to your room. On the other side of the door, Sofia's voice came in return. Okay, thanks, Amelie. The guest bedroom was freshly clean, with new linen on the bed and a lit lantern beside it. Fortunately, Lilika had prepared the room well in advance. You did a fine job of preparing the room so far. Thank you, Lilika. Anything for you. I was thinking, tomorrow if the rain is cleared up, we could open the greenhouse again and have morning tea there. It's been so long since we last used it. Crack, crack, crack. By now a dozen cracks stemmed from a dozen other cracks, filling the entirety of Lilika's world. Any moment, even a breeze would make everything collapse. Didn't we already speak of this? You cannot leave the house. But surely the greenhouse would be safe. No one else uses it, and it's only a few steps from the back door. It's unsafe, you know this. What's gotten into you? It's because you're your friend. I just thought it would be nice to at least sit in the sun. Then you may sit by the window in the dining hall. Is it really so unsafe that even taking a foot outdoors would be dangerous? Yes. Sofia, I see you're done with the bath. Lilika crossed her arms over her chest, anger already rising in her chest. Were you talking about the greenhouse? Yes, did you see it when you arrived? I did, but it looked as if the plants inside had died. Oh, it's impossible. It's barely been any time at all since the gardeners left. I'm sure the plants inside are more sturdy than that. And if they have died, maybe we can go in and replant some things tomorrow. How wonderful. Have you not heard a word I said? It is unsafe to do so. Oh, don't be such a spoil sport. I think it would be perfectly fine. Well, it's getting late now, so I'll leave you to retire. If you need anything, my room is just upstairs on the left. Good night, Sofia. Poison dripped from her voice as Lilika left the guest room behind. The house had a heart, and that heart was beating to the same rhythm as Lilika's. It was frenzied, on the verge of losing control. It echoed through her head, through the hall, through to every corner of the building. Like Morse code, as if the house itself was telling her to do something. Get rid of her. Cut out the disease. Protect Amelie. She bit her thumb, pacing back and forth. Amelie will be upset, but Amelie doesn't need anyone else. She has me. She won't be upset for long, and she'll forget. That's right, she'll forget. Her breath hitched in her throat. What do I do? What do I do? She just won't die. Lady, what am I supposed to do? At that moment, Lilika put her ear to Amelie's door, listening intently. How about coming away with me for a while? Oh, away? Outside of the house? What about the sickness? Away? Outside of the house? It's okay now. You'll be okay. You could come stay at my house. I could show you around my school. You don't have to go through an arranged marriage if you don't want to. Lilika's hands balled into fists at her side. You would do that for me? You're my dearest friend, and I actually... You think you can take her away from me? Lilika's balled fist slammed against the door. Each one sent a pain shooting up her arm, all the way to her shoulder. Inside, the voices went quiet. Allow her fate. She doesn't belong to you. Lilika? Finally, Lilika snapped out of her daze. At some point, Amelie had left the guest bedroom and was standing a short distance away from her, looking worried. Instantly, she took a deep breath and composed herself. But her heart still beat as loud as a drum. The cracks that seemed to be centered around Amelie were still spreading at an increasing rate. It is late. You should retire to your bedroom. Yes, I shall. It's nice, having someone else around, isn't it? It feels as if the manor is coming back to life. Hope we see Mother and Father soon. I'm sure we will. Shall I see you to bed? Yes, please. The hall was darkened, with only a few sconces and candles lit along the way, and Lilika relished in it. A night like this, long ago in her past, She had sealed her fate along with Amelie's. Tonight she would seal the fate of yet another person. The two rose up the grand staircase, side by side. Moonlight drifted in through the stained glass window. This seemed to be the only place free from those cracks. If she squinted, she could almost see it, almost hear it. That head, hitting each step with a loud thunk. Those eyes would never open again to look upon a woman with scorn. That hand would never be raised to leave a mark on pristine skin. The sound filled her with joy. The thought of repeating that fateful night left her footsteps light with excitement. First time she killed someone to protect the lady of the house and the lady's daughter. Lilika, may I ask you a question? Certainly. Have you ever heard of a woman loving another woman as a woman would love a man? Shameful. Why'd you hear about such a thing? No in particular. Just a thought that came into my mind. I think you're overtired because of all the excitement, Amelie. I think it best you get some rest. Yes, all right. Good night, Lilika. Lilika was seated on the edge of Amelie's bed, stood with unsteady feet. Standing in the doorway, she looked back at Amelie. As her hand rested against the door, a sudden pang went through Lilika's cold heart. She's important to you, isn't she? Of course. Her words have always been something that have brightened my day. Even if she were to leave. Leave? I believe she'll leave eventually, Lilika. It's little choice, really. All I can do is hope she'll visit again. I see. Good night, Amelie. Sleep well. Whatever Amelie said in reply was lost in the darkness as Lilika stepped out of the bedroom. As she left the room, she noticed it. A dark shadow stalking through the night, slowly creeping through the hall. Lilika frowned. My lady, you must forgive me. I've rarely seen Amelie so happy. She cannot stay. No, she must leave immediately, and I will make her. She stood on the grand staircase, outlined in the moon's glow. Sofia, you can't see me, you can't hear me, but you can sense me, can you not? The shadow paused, her eyes going up the staircase. There she saw a shadow warp strangely across the carpeted steps. You will leave this place immediately, and you will never come back. Lilika? The blonde girl pushed a vase from the step. It crashed to the ground below, smashing into tiny pieces. Sofia jumped in response, a shiver running down her spine. I won't warn you again. Leave. Slowly and unsteadily, Sofia crept up the stairs until her face was almost close enough to touch Lilika's. Is that you, Lilika? In a small motion, Lilika dropped something from her sleeve. It clattered to the ground at Sofia's feet. She gripped at her shirt even more tightly. This is your last chance. I don't care whether you live or die, this is only a favor to Amelie. As if her nerves had finally gotten the best of her, Sofia turned at the spot and ran. Back down the staircase and into the dark hall. Oh. Lilika followed behind her, slamming doors and knocking things down to the ground. Sofia, too scared to even turn around, ran as fast as her legs would take her, until she reached the front door. Instead of being locked and closed up tightly, it sat open, as if waiting for her to leave. She didn't waste even a single second more, and she was gone. She's gone. Gone. I did it. Amelie, I did it. You did what? Uh-oh. Did you? This is what it looks like, Amelie. Please, listen to me. Did you force her to leave? No, I'm going after her. Lilika jumped in front of the door, arms spread wide. You can't. Why? It's unsafe to do so. You belong here with me, together. I've had enough of this and that being unsafe, Lilika. Either you moved to the side, or any friendship I thought we had is gone. Lilika wavered. Her arms, which had held such conviction, began to drop. I've always done what's best for you, have I not? All this time, have I not remained at your side? Please, trust me, I only did what I had to do. So this is what you've decided. Don't come near me again. Amelie turned her back on the blonde-haired woman, who dropped to her knees as she watched her leave. Amelie. Good night, Lilika. Darkness filled every inch of her brain. A voice screamed out from inside of her, mocking her. This isn't right. Lady, this isn't right. Didn't I do the right thing? Let her go, and did her a favor, but Amelie is upset. Her lady offered her no answer. Is this punishment for not doing as you wished? Sofia should have died. She should have died. Should have died. Died. Now she's alive, and Amelie is angry. That dark room, all alone, Lilika clutched onto something. Something she kept hidden in a closet away from any prying eyes. She held it tighter. Its green dress fell apart at her touch. Can't you make this all better again? Can't we make her forget? Her forehead fell down and rested against the other person's shoulder. They remained silent, as they had been for many long years. I'm sorry, I'll make it all better. We can make her forget, can't we? Can we start again? Just like before, we can start again. Lilika stood, placing the skeleton of her lady carefully back in the closet. Keep waiting for me. I promise I'll make everything right again. Let's start again, Amelie. You and me. Forever. Eh? Lilika walked into the room, holding a tray carefully in her hands. On it sat a teapot and 2 cups. Amelie, I've brought the tea. Excellent, it smells delicious. Amelie smiled brightly, filling Lilika with happiness in return. Lilika, may I ask you something? Of course. But this letter by the front door, do you know where it came from? Amelie held out an envelope. The front was blank. How strange. Perhaps it was delivered here by accident. Lilika took it from her and opened it. At the bottom it was signed, Yours always, Sofia. Yes, it seems to be for someone else. I'll mail this back, yes. Thank you, Lilika. I appreciate it. Finished with her tea, Amelie stood first and left the room. Lilika smiled. Under the table, she pulled out a stack of envelopes that seemed to match the one that Amelie had given her. All at once, she threw them into the fireplace. Goodbye, Sofia. Goodbye, Sofia. So if I'm understanding this, I'm guessing Amelie did not catch up to Sofia. Amelie found her way back. Lilika tinkered with her memories again. And Sofia perhaps kept trying to write. But Amelie's memories were tinkered with, and Sofia successfully intercepting Amelie's Lilika successfully intercepting Sofia's further letters, probably trying to keep in contact somewhat. And yeah, that's it. Successfully keeping out any more Sofia. So, 1 out of 3. Now if we skip, Sever her fate. Amelie, I have something to say to you. You're my very best friend, do you know that? I feel the same towards you, Lilika. As such, I feel the need to be truthful with you. You appreciate the truth, don't you? Of course, I trust your judgment very much. Is something the matter? Lie, lie, lie. Your mother contacted me. She believes they'll be able to return shortly. Ah! Oh, Lilika, this is wonderful news! Indeed. She was very excited for me to pass on her message to you, but... Keep lying. She wasn't pleased to hear that you had someone visiting without her permission. Oh. But she would be delighted that I invited a friend. Your entire existence is a lie! Of course, I pleaded with her that Sofia was a dear friend, but she wouldn't listen. I see. Did she say when she would return? No, but it seems to be soon. And I'll send Sofia away like normal tomorrow. Can't exactly force her out in the storm, can I? Why not? Lilika! Naturally, I'm just teasing. Of course it wouldn't be right to send her away at a time like this. I'm glad to hear that we've come to an agreement. How pleased that I am to know that Mother will return soon. Let's go prepare tea, shall we? There is no need to tinker anymore. And stop reading. Sofia says it's now safe to travel. You say Mother is returning soon. It'll be perfectly fine, don't you think? No post haste? It'll be perfectly fine. Now, I'm not sure what we'll call it get us other endings, but we won't directly sever her fate. When we sever her fate once, we can only deny her fate now. She doesn't belong to you. Lilika? Staying in the doorway, she looked back at Amelie. Good night, Amelie. Tomorrow everything will be better, so sleep well. Lilika steeled her resolve and stepped out of the bedroom. First went back to the guest room and put her ear to the door. No sounds could be heard from behind it. Then she noticed something. Someone else walking down the hallway unsteadily. Lilika followed closely behind. Through the darkness, the other person was only a shadow, their features obscured and hidden. The sound of her light steps on the cold wooden floorboards mixed in with the rain that was still raging just outside those walls. The kitchen was by the stairwell. That's right, by the stairwell, but you aren't going to the kitchen, are you? Hand-painted portraits were lined up in rows on either side of the hall. It seemed as if their eyes moved to follow Lilika's every move. Sofia stared up the grand staircase. She seemed as if she was entranced with each and every step. They're waiting for you. Those two people, they're calling for you. Go on. Go to them. Sofia's unsteady hand reached for the banister. Her ascent was slow and careful, her eyes fixed on that door. That special door. The room where the maid had met her end. Her most hated person rested beside her. That room where she had made the promise to the person she loved. Lilika needed only to reach into the kitchen to procure the item that was waiting for her. Had been waiting for her all this time, since Sofia had arrived. Knife with dark, aged stains over the blade and hilt. Long had it sat there, festering, waiting, desperate for more blood. Like a hunter stalking her prey, Lilika followed behind Sofia, the knife gripped tightly in her hand. Two stood side by side, staring at the door to the master bedroom. Shut tight, as if it had been countless years. Sofia trembled. With a smile, Lilika reached over to give her arm a squeeze. Go on. You want to know the truth, don't you? You can hear their voices. I'll allow you this much. With a careful motion, Sofia pushed the door open. All at once, countless memories came flooding back, of love, hope, of the future, and of death. Sofia disappeared into the dark room, the only light being a candle she carried in her hand. A family of mice ran out from the room and down the stairs. The taste of freedom was oh so sweet for them. More quiet than the mice that had escaped, Lilika followed Sofia into the room. Wax dripped from the burning candle onto the wooden floor. She trembled as she reached a shaky hand to the bed. At the same moment, Lilika swung the door closed beside them, and the room plunged into darkness. That darkness didn't matter to Lilika, not to she who knew this room like the back of her hand. Amelie, is that you? Amelie isn't here to save you. Sofia's eyes searched the room to no avail. I'm sorry I came in here after you asked me not to. I'll just go now, okay? The pale-haired woman fell back onto the bed before she had a moment to react. The old bones of the lord of the manor and the maid rattled underneath her, flesh long deteriorated. Lilika smiled. How long's it been since I last saw myself truly? What? It looks like we're finally meeting, Sofia. The leg on either side of her, Lilika held Sofia down to the bed, still smiling. She tried to squirm, to escape, to run free. Her eyes were filled with terror. You won't take her away from me. Sofia's scream became a muffled cry before finally extinguishing fully. Oh boy. Finally. My lady, did you see? Are you watching? I've saved her. I've saved Amelie. Only when Lilika tried to stand did she notice it. An aged bone poking up from her stomach. Eh? Dark liquid dripped out from around it. With a slight frown, Lilika pulled it free. It's okay. It'll be okay. Lilika closed her eyes. I'm just a little tired. I'll just sleep for a bit. Her eyes grew heavy, so heavy that the only option would be to sleep at this very moment. How could you do that? Lilika, why? Why? Why would you hurt Amelie like that? Why'd you kill Amelie? Oh? It opened with a start, her heart racing faster than it had ever raced before. The room seemed to be spinning and her head throbbing. Then she saw it. Lying on the bed between the two skeletons was the body of a young woman. A young woman with long brown hair. Her dress was stained red. Amelie. No, that's not. Who did this? Who? Sofia! Amelie, wake up! Wake! She blinked and the young woman below her disappeared. In her place, Sofia appeared. The room was still dark. Not even a slight drop of sunlight peeked through the covered windows. What a cruel trick of the eyes. She stepped out from the master bedroom just as Amelie did the same, right next door. Good morning, Lilika. I was just on my way to see if Sofia has awakened yet. Amelie. Sofia disappeared during the night, I believe. She went to the same place your parents went. What? That cannot be right. Don't run, Amelie. Amelie dashed down the hall and knocked quickly on the door to the guest bedroom, which fell open with no resistance. Inside, the bedding was disheveled and her luggage was strewn about. And it's not true. She wouldn't just leave without saying goodbye. Dearie me, I'm sorry. I told you it was a bad idea for anyone to visit, didn't I? Oh, Lilika, this isn't fair. I thought you said we would. There, come here. Lilika wrapped her thin arms around the young woman, gently patting her on the back. See, you shouldn't have depended on anyone else. I'm here. I won't ever leave you. Amelie clutched at her back, tears already falling from her eyes. We'll be together forever. Whoa! What? Amelie froze in Lilika's arms before pulling back completely. What happened to your face? My face? Lilika's hands went to her face instantly. Is something wrong? Amelie's expression had darkened, her mouth shut firmly in a line. God, the graphical effects in this game are astounding. Really good. Got the shadows moving through the hallway, cracks appearing, various lighting effects, background styles are beautiful. And now this is wow. My face. Pulling a small mirror from her pocket, Lilika finally saw it. A black void of nothingness where her face should have been. This is bad. He turned and ran down the hall and up the stairs before Lilika could even call out after her. The void seemed to seep out from her very skin, oozing, leaking out from the wound at her stomach. Oh, that disease-ridden hag. Amelie, wait. It's okay. Everything will be okay. Lilika's hand that reached out towards Amelie fell to her side. Top of the staircase, in this manor in the middle of a field, far out in the countryside, Amelie stood in an open doorway. A doorway that had been opened to her in more years than she could truly imagine. And inside, she witnessed a sight she never should have. Uh-oh. Her eyes hollow, and her body petrified. Sofia! Amelie, this isn't... Stay away from me! Oh no. Her long, brown hair cascaded out around her as Amelie rushed into her bedroom, slamming the door behind her. Lilika rushed up the staircase, banging her fists against the locked door. Amelie, this is all a misunderstanding. She wanted to hurt you. I've saved you. She fell to her knees, her fist still pounding on the wooden door. A muffled sob came from within, then silence. The void surrounded Lilika, flowing from her wound and wrapping himself around her body. She curled into a ball. The sound of a chair hitting the ground inside the bedroom was the last sound Lilika heard. Her eyes closed and she became one with the void. Wow. One with the void. And the obvious outcome here being that Amelie took her own life. There's one more thing to do, and that is... sever her fate. Skip? Oh, hello! Accept it. You can hear me now, can't you? Why not just end it? You're scared. You're so terrified. You came here to see your friend, and look at what's happened to you. Amelie. Yes, Amelie. Amelie, where did you go? Where are you? Amelie. I want to see you. Shut up. You don't deserve to speak her name. You don't deserve to be in her presence. Why don't you just give up? Just sink deep into the abyss. It's inviting. Sink. Right. I should... Isn't the water so warm and inviting? That's right, just sink down into it. Then you'll finally be able to rest. Amelie. You... Oh, hi. Alright, moving along. Destroy her fate. Destroy her fate. It just belonged to you. Ooh. Tidy your bedroom, yes I shall. Destroy her fate she shall. The only place free from the cracks. Dun dun. Good night, Amelie. Sleep well. Tomorrow everything will be better. Lilika stepped out of the bedroom, shutting the door softly behind her. The hall was still dark, with only a few candles to light her descent. It was quiet. Everything was still asleep. The eyes that followed Lilika wherever she went were closed. The voices that crept up from between the floorboards were silent. Somehow that only made Lilika more uncomfortable. That didn't matter. Not now. She knew what she was doing. Where she was going. What she must do. She inched closer and closer to that door. Door that held behind it a sickness named Sofia. It was closed tight. Lilika raised her hand, almost as if to knock, but instead pushed it open and entered. Just the hallway was dark, so was the guest bedroom. The lantern had been blown out only a short while ago. No sound came from the bed. All was still. Lilika crept closer, and closer, till she stood over the bed like a shadow. The one underneath her kept her eyes shut tight. Her face was calm and serene. Lilika couldn't help but smile as her hands wrapped around her fragile, pale neck. Her fingers dug into Sofia's flesh, so soft and easily bruised. Still, she didn't even shift. For some reason, that made Lilika even more furious. As the young woman named Sofia laid still as a statue, her mind wandered back to another that had once done the same in this very house. A young woman who had left Amelie in Lilika's care, and only wanted the best for her daughter. Only wanted for her to be happy. The problem is she'll leave. That's the problem, isn't it, my lady? The cold fingers slowly unwound from Sofia's throat. That she'll leave and take Amelie away. But if she stays, then won't Amelie be happy? Is this the compromise that she came to in Sofia's other ending? She'll be so happy. Always. Forever. And then maybe you can... Lilika withdrew from the room in a hush, her feet carrying her faster than they ever had before. Through the hall, up the stairs, and into Amelie's bedroom once again. The bed was warm and inviting. Lilika enveloped herself in that heat, wrapping her arms around Amelie tightly. Ooh. So, Lilika! Do you want Sofia to stay here forever? What? She will leave if we don't do anything about it. She will leave and you will never hear from her again. That's not true, Lilika. She wouldn't just do that. My dear Amelie, I spoke to her just a moment ago. She was already packing up her bags. Oh. That Amelie rubbed her eyes and sat up. It can't be true. Go check for yourself. Amelie, not even wasting a single moment, walked towards her door and peered down. From here, the moon was shining in through the stained glass just right, illuminating the hallway below. In the distance, a shadow could be seen moving. Lilika smiled. See? Lilika picked up a toy doll that still sat on Amelie's bed. A relic from the past. Its straw-colored hair almost seemed to stand on end. Don't you want to keep her here? Don't you want her to be like this doll? Keep her here. Right. Your own special doll who will never leave you. This music box music means that some real fucky shit is about to happen. By fucky shit, I mean very ominous spirit possession. Your own special doll who will never leave you. Don't worry, I'll make it happen just for you. I'll make sure you're happy forever. Go down the hall to my room, behind the bookcase. Wait for me. Amelie's eyes had glazed over, as if she wasn't truly there. She stood from the bed and picked up a small black case that rested on her nightstand before leaving the room. It wasn't long afterwards that Lilika followed in her footsteps, just in time to see Sofia ascending the staircase. She walked straight past Lilika, who was smiling happily, and approached Amelie's door. As she knocked, the door fell open with a groan. Amelie, are you in here? Amelie's waiting for you. From somewhere hidden in the darkness, a fragile melody filled the air. Almost instantly, Sofia turned toward the sound and began to follow. Lilika sped up enough to walk beside her. Isn't this great? You don't like Amelie, don't you? Don't you want to make her happy? She'll be ecstatic for you to stay forever. Oh. So why don't we help her to be happy forever? She offered no answer. Entered the room together. Inside the room, surrounded by candles, Amelie sat. Her skirt fanned out around her. Spread out over the floor were piles of letters. Upon closer inspection, each was filled with words that had been crossed out and signed with yours, Marion. Amelie? Amelie, are you awake? Her eyes were shut tight, yet her hands moved enough to play the sorrowful tune. Please listen to me, Amelie. Lilika she isn't... I'm not what? You're going to leave her, aren't you? Lilika shut the door, dragging the heavy lock across. In response, Sofia rushed backwards and tried the handle to no avail. Amelie's eyes finally opened. In place of her usual golden eyes was a glare of deep red. Amelie, snap out of it! Please! Snap out of it! You want to take her away? Amelie, please! One at a time, Lilika blew out the candles on the floor. The room was plunged into darkness. Amelie fell forward, her body exhausted. It's nice to meet you, Sofia. I'm sure we're going to have a fun time living together, since you will be staying with us after all, right? Lilika, could you pass the sugar? Of course, Amelie. The smile, Lilika pushed the sugar across the table towards Amelie, picked up the teaspoon, and dropped a single cube of sugar into her tea. Would you like one, Lilika? No, thank you. Just being around you makes my tea sweet enough. And you, Sofia? Sofia? You're awfully quiet today. I'll just give you one. What happened to Sofia? Next to Amelie sat Sofia. Perfect and pristine. To Amelie's eyes, at least. Oh no. But Lilika saw the truth. Her flesh convulsed and pulsated, and her eyes bulged what was once her head. What? The shape of Sofia was gone, and in its place was a mound of person who used to be. Holy shit. Lilika smiled. You know she likes sugar in her tea. There's no need to ask. You're right. I'm so happy. Sofia, Lilika, you are both so important to me. Thank you for being by my side. Anytime. Isn't that right, Sofia? From now on, it's just the three of us. The three of us. Is this really okay? Oh, thank God. What about the future? Should you try again? I mean, yeah. What does this happen? The room was dark. Amelie had long gone to bed, leaving Sofia alone in her room. She ducked her head under the cover and pulled out her phone. Still dead. Sofia clutched it to her chest. What do I do? What exactly is going on here? Sofia's body stiffened up. Her back was to the door, but her mind screamed not to turn around. Footsteps crept closer. Closer and closer until... Stay away from me! Ah! Sofia threw her bedding at the approaching person and jumped to her feet, ready to run. The person she saw collapsed to the ground was not the person she was expecting. Oh my gosh, Amelie, I'm so sorry! Sofia knelt down, quickly helping the brown-haired girl to her feet. It's quite all right. I didn't mean to scare you. I apologize. No, it's my fault. I'm too jumpy. I'm glad you're here. I'm really glad you're here. Sofia's arms draped over Amelie's shoulders, and she pulled her in tight. Amelie froze for just a moment before she melted into the embrace. I'm here. But is everything all right? No, I don't think everything is all right. What could be the matter? Amelie, my phone died as soon as my cab approached your house. Do you see? She pulled out her phone, showing her the black screen. What is that strange box? What exactly is that? My mobile. Amelie picked it up curiously, turning it in her hands. Of course Amelie hasn't seen anything like that. You've never seen a phone? What is it used for? For texting, making calls, playing games, those kinds of things? Amazing. Amelie, what year is it? Oh dear, why do you ask? Please. 1665, of course. Oh, there it is. Sofia took a step back from Amelie. What is it? Amelie, this makes no sense. Lilika, this house. You. Amelie, it's 2021. What? Sofia, that's preposterous. Oh my God. She fell back onto the bed, her legs not able to hold her up any longer. Oh my God, Amelie, you're not joking. You're really... Are you feeling unwell? Maybe you need to get some rest after all. Amelie, please listen to me. Out there, the world has changed. We have phones, cars, computers. We don't need a husband. We don't need permission to buy a house. You can go to school, get a job, do whatever you want. I know I probably sound crazy to you right now, but please, I'm telling you the truth. You're trying to tell me that nearly 400 years have passed and I've been stuck here? How would that even be possible? I don't know. Amelie, how long have we been writing to each other? Well, I don't know. It's been 5 years. I need to find Lilika. She'll know what's going on here. No, wait. You can't ask Lilika. Why not? I can't see Lilika, Amelie. I haven't seen her once. But she's been here from the start. I've only seen you in this house, Amelie. Something is going on within this house that has kept you stuck here, and I think she's the one who has done that to you. That can't be true. Why don't we find out together? How? The master bedroom. Lilika was the one who said you couldn't enter, wasn't she? Please. Sofia reached out her hand carefully. Amelie stared at it, unsure, before deciding to take it. I don't understand what's going on, but I trust you. Let's go. The hallway was still dark, with no sign of Lilika anywhere. If she appears, then tell me, okay? Okay. Hand in hand, the two walked quickly through the hall and up the staircase. There they stood in front of the master bedroom, side by side. Their hands were sweaty. I know what's in here. I'll be by your side, okay? Amelie offered no words, instead just squeezing Sofia's hand gently. And at that, Sofia pushed the door open. Just like the rest of the house, the room was dark and quiet. Only the moon shining from the dirty window guided the two in. It smelled musty, as if they were in a tomb only just uncovered, not a bedroom. They crept closer and closer to the bed. It was surrounded completely by the canopy, keeping whatever was inside hidden. With a shaky hand, Sofia reached toward the light velvet. Once the truth came into view. Amelie gasped and almost fell to her knees, but Sofia's hand kept her steady. I'm sorry, Amelie. They left. They left only a few weeks ago. It looks like they've been gone for a very long time. Amelie, I know this is hard to believe. I find it just as hard to believe as you do. Please, we have to leave this house. Now, before Lilika finds us. She knew. I think that you've been bound to this house by her. We need to find a way to leave. Okay. The two only got halfway down the stairs when Amelie ground to a halt. Sofia turned to look at her, her eyes wide in surprise, only to see that Amelie's expression was one of immense fear. Lilika, what are you two doing out of bed? Uh-oh. Lilika, So you went in there. She nodded upstairs. You lied. You lied to me. Only to keep you happy. Happiness with lies at their foundation isn't true happiness. And why not? You've been perfectly happy here for longer than you've even existed. And you've come along and... I'm sorry, Amelie, I'm so sorry. Lilika burst into tears, wiping at her eyes with her sleeve in a desperate attempt to stop them from overflowing. Lilika! Wait, Amelie, don't. Amelie took a step towards Lilika as if to comfort her. Please don't leave, Amelie. Can't we stay here together? Amelie, she's lying to you. She wants to keep you trapped here. Please. But... Please. Amelie! Sofia pulled on Amelie's arm, forcing her to turn and face her. Amelie's eyes were filled with confusion. I know you two have been together for a long time. I know I can't compete with that, but I want to give you the life you deserve. You deserve to be free, to live, to experience everything you've missed out on. Not to be stuck in time here forever. The truth is, Whatever words were coming next were lost before they were even spoken as Sofia leant forward and placed a gentle kiss against Amelie's lips. The cries from below extinguished in an instant as Lilika watched on in horror. Just for a moment, the rest of the world melted away. All that existed were the two of them. Amelie and Sofia. Amelie closed her eyes. The sensation was new and foreign, yet not unwanted. Butterflies were let loose in both of their stomachs. When they connected, heat spread through their bodies, and then Sofia pulled away. The truth is, Amelie, I have liked you for a very long time. Even if you don't like me back, I want to help you. I want to help you live again. Amelie, don't listen to her. Okay. A decisive smile came to Sophia's lips. She had no time to dwell on the sudden kiss, nor her confession that would usually make her feel so nervous she'd be sick. All she had time for was to escape. Her eyes went down the hall where an enraged Lilika stood in their path. Windows were bolted down, unable to be opened. There was nowhere at all to escape, that is, except... Do you trust me? I do. Sophia didn't need any more of a confirmation. With Amelie in hand, she turned, ran, and jumped. Oh, the cracks of the window. The glass shattered as the two girls hit it hard. They fell, surrounded by the shards until they hit the ground below. They're outside, that's all that matters. Moon shone from high above, shielded away by the storm that never seemed to end. Amelie, are you okay? Yes, I think so. Sophia rushed to Amelie's side, quickly helping her to sit up. Side by side, they looked up at the remains of the stained glass window. Lilika stood, completely still. This one place that didn't have any cracks in it, in Lilika's world. They broke it. I can see her. I'm sorry, Lilika, but... Lilika just shook her head. She grasped her throat with her hand, and her lips moved, but no sound came out. Giving up, she looked back at Amelie, holding eye contact. Her expression wasn't angry anymore. It was just sad. She lifted her hand and waved, a slow and small motion, before she crumbled to dust on the wind. And stopped. Lilika. It seems it wasn't you bound to this house by her, but the other way around. Yeah, Lilika was bound here with the purpose of keeping Amelie safe. Is this perhaps an acknowledgement that Amelie is in fact safe? What am I meant to do now? Amelie, you're free. You can do whatever you wish. Sofia, exhausted, once again wrapped her arms around Amelie, who returned the gesture almost immediately. There they embraced under the now free moon. In this manor, in the middle of a field, far out in the countryside, a curse was broken. A young woman freed. What her future held was uncertain. After all, the future never is. She made her decision on that fateful night. To trust in the future, to trust in herself. No matter what. Wow! I'm so glad there was a good ending at the end of this road. Because, god dang it. Ugh. That story, all in all, up to that point, was some really impressive freaking horror. Really impressive horror. Even if we didn't get all that much of a build-up of Amelie and Sophia's relationship before that point, just by their interaction, you can tell they had a long-standing relationship as pen pals. It makes the ending and wanting to see them get through this together and survive the curse that was Lilika. It also makes me wonder if the lady of the house was actually in favor of Lilika leaving, or Amelie leaving with Sofia. Amelie, I'm back with my class. Sofia, quick, come here. Is something the matter? No, look! Amelie held a phone screen up to Sofia, who just laughed in response. You got a 5-star character at that game you like. It's amazing. All you do is insert the numbers on that card you gave. Oh no. Oh no. Amelie, how much did you spend on the gacha? Future truly is astounding. How much did you spend on the gacha? We'll talk about it later. Oh, what's this? I'm not sure. It was slipped under the door while you were out. A plain white envelope sat on the coffee table. Nothing on it identified who sent it or who it was addressed to. With a look concerned, Sofia opened it and pulled out a letter. The words may as well have been a different language as she could not read them. Her eyes went straight to the name at the bottom of the page. Yours, Lilika. Oh no. Oh, don't leave me with that ominous shenanigans. Oh gosh, I really enjoyed this. I want to load here and say no. My future is scary. It's better we stay here together. Okay, yeah, so. We'll just leave that there. So saying no to the future does kick you out. Wow. I'm really glad we had a happy end of that out of that after all of this. That was terrifying. That was some bloody well done horror. That was some delightful horror. That was... Even the existential crisis of start again. With repeating the time loops here. Just to find an outcome where everyone lives. That had an air of hope to it throughout. It was done with good intentions. You can't even say that there was anything bad done with good intentions, because it was just good and good, all in all. But this... There's a lot of questionable actions here. A lot of memory manipulation, a lot of psychological manipulation, and whatnot. All for the sake of, all for the sake of keeping Amelie here, under the false matter of keeping her safe, so to speak. Cool. God, that was fucking terrifying. I'm glad that ended on a good note, though. And Amelie deserved Amelie found gotcha, all in all. Sheesh. Alright. On that note, we're going to sign off from Amelie. I hope you enjoyed. I bloody well did. And until next time, until then, thanks for watching.